Good morning. Welcome back to Centered Gaming. Just thought I'd pull off a quick video this morning because I'm feeling pretty bright and chipper, and I'm not even going to follow a script today because here's a little something that I've been giving a lot of thought to, and I wanted to address with my viewers at some point. Because if you're like me, you've probably noticed that this generation of consoles, the Series X and the PlayStation 5, are still pretty tied to the previous generation of consoles, the Xbox One and the PS4. Most Series X and PS5 games still have an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4 version of it. Now, why is that? And like I said, I've given this a lot of thought over the years, and I've had a lot of discussions with my friend Chris on this very subject of what a standard is. In other words, the point where your certain level of expectation is such that you don't feel anything is lacking, and anything above that is sort of an extra. And yes, it's different from person to person, but there is a certain standard that the masses have too. Let's take an example in another field with movies. When movies started out, they were silent movies in black and white. They had a piano player playing some sort of music in the background, a live piano player, and they put the dialogue on the screen. Well, then they added sound. And when they added sound, it wasn't some bonus or novelty. They were basically putting something there that was lacking in the first place. Same with color. And then, you have stereo, which makes it nice, makes the movie look more natural and sound more natural when you have color and stereo. And then surround sound, digital, 3D came in somewhere in there, even before you had surround sound in your movies. Now, when you go to the movie theater, as long as the movie is in color and it has, at the very least, stereo sound, you're not going to be too much like, this isn't in 3D, and this isn't in surround sound. This movie just plain sucks. No. It's most likely that this will be an acceptable movie to you. So, sometime around like 70s, 80s, movies hit a certain standard. This is what you can reasonably expect. If you go to a movie nowadays and it's in black and white, you're going to be a little disappointed because you're expecting movies to be in color. If the sound is in mono, you're going to notice, and that's going to suck. So, getting back to video games, I believe that somewhere around the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One generation, we hit a certain standard for video games. 1080p, surround sound, and for those of you who it's important to, 60 frames per second. And those are three things you can say, okay, this is what I expect from a video game. What's really noticeable, saying going from PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, is that those previous consoles that I mentioned had to be playable on a 480i television. So, yes, you could hook an HDMI back to it and still play on a high-definition television set, but they still had to design the game so that it could be played on a 480i set on PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360. And they looked pretty good, even on those 480i television sets. But the thing is, once you got to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One generation. It's HDMI only. Now we have widescreen, high definition is now a standard. And what really makes that special or significant, to me at least, is that you can play games that are very text driven or have a lot of small text on the screen, and it looks natural. It doesn't look washed out like it does on a 480i television set. And this, I feel, was an essential thing missing from video games. So, I often say to myself, 1080p is good enough for me. And even when 4K TVs came out, yes, it was a nice improvement, but I didn't sit back there and when I watched a show in 1080p thinking, oh my God, it's not in 4K. This really sucks. Like I would if I had to watch a 480i TV show on one of those old style TVs. I would feel, yeah, something is really lacking here. So now you have a certain standard for video games. I believe that they be at least in 1080p and they, have surround sound. But, if it's not in 3D and if it's not in VR and if it's not in 4K, I don't care. And I have a feeling that there's a lot of gamers out there who really don't either, as long as the game is fun to play and it looks decent. So just, think about that. There's a standard that's already been reached. And okay, another thing. Let's take the Xbox Series S. Some idiot said that the Xbox Series S is bottlenecking gaming. See, and I don't believe that's so, because just about anything that you make for PlayStation 5 or Series X, you can also play on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. It's just not going to be as pretty. The frame rate isn't going to be as fast. You may have some extra loading times. And of course, they can get away with still making really high quality Xbox Series X games and making a Series S version for it, because, the Series S really isn't that much better than an Xbox One X anyways. So, and that's probably the only smart thing I think about the Xbox Series S is. Otherwise, if you look at my previous video, you'll see that I make this point over and over and over again. If you don't have a disk drive, you're sacrificing your consumer freedom. But at the same time, the Xbox Series S does prove that you can release a title and it can be super fancy, super graphics driven, etc., and you can still make a lower quality version of that game as long as it meets a certain standard, and that standard would be, it's got to be at least 1080p. So, something to think about, something for you to personally consider as to whether or not you want to get, if you don't already have one, an Xbox One, a PS4, or if it's terribly important to have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. It depends on what your standards are, okay, and also a lot on your equipment. If your television set is still 1080p or it's a lower end 4K television, and let's say your sound system isn't terribly sophisticated, I'd say go with the last generation, because the equipment that you already have is not going to really take advantage of the Series X or PlayStation 5 features as well. It's always a good idea to upgrade your equipment that you watch on, as far as your television set is concerned, or your sound system. Upgrade that first. And if you own previous gen equipment like a PS4 or Xbox One, your equipment itself will upgrade what you're already playing on. And then you'll also be ready for when you want to get a next generation console. Get that, and you'll have a blast playing. That's the sequence I think is best to do it in. And before I just continue rambling on and on and on about this subject, I think it would be best to close off here before other people in the house wake up. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Have fun gaming and stay centered doing it.